And now it's Deborah Cobelt Live and the Little Italy podcast.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today on Deborah Cobalt Live and our Little Italy podcast. Joining me today are my friends, Dr. Reid Gaudio and Gino Gaudio. They are co-founders of the Tony Gaudio Foundation and also just completed this fabulous documentary, The Lost Legacy of Tony Gaudio. He was the first Italian to win an Oscar, and nobody knows where the Oscar is. So we're going to be, it's an incredible story. And I just watched the documentary. It's absolutely fantastic. But I want to talk about the film. I want to talk about, of course, Tony Gaudio and all about him and how his life started in Italy. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Deborah. It's great to see you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So even if it's just right here, right?
Yep,
it's
that's
really
right.
Great.
We love Zooming.
Well, it's the best way, right? You're
it is.
Town.
It's so easy.
Yeah, you're over, the other side of town. This is the best way for us to do this. Okay, my first question, Gino. Let's talk about Tony Gaudio. Who is he? Obviously, you're related. That last name really gives it away. And talk to me about where he's from in Italy and his family. Right? How did he grow up there, please?
Tony Gaudio grew up and was born in Cosenza, Calabria, Italy, and he was born in 1883. He has a younger brother, my grandfather, Eugene, who was born in 1886. The brothers immigrated here in 1906 and 1907, but they came from a family in Cosenza that had a photo studio, a portrait studio, from before the turn of the century. And their older brother, Raffaele, was knighted by the King of Italy for his work as a portraiture photographer. Mm-hmm. So they learned the techniques of portraiture photography, the development techniques, the use of shading, the use of light, and all of that in the portrait studio. And Tony, as a young man, he learned he would shine light into the studio. He would put a mirror out in the street, shining light into the studio to give more light for the portraiture. So when they came to this country, they actually came to the United States for the express purpose of seeking their career in the motion picture business, which was in its infancy at that time. It was an amazing technological breakthrough to turn still photographs into moving pictures. Mm-hmm. And they were at the cutting edge of that process. And they brought all of this experience and talent into that at the early days of cinematography in Hollywood.
A lot of people don't realize because, I first found this out when I went to the Thomas Edison Museum in New Jersey. He had a sound stage there, right? It was open lighting, because they would shift the sound stage to grab the lighting from above. I mean, it really was in its infancy stages. And it wasn't even that long ago, honestly, when you think about it, how far we've come. But it's because of folks like Tony Gaudio and Eugene Gaudio who really recognized that still photos could become moving pictures into silent movies. And Mary, I know, because I spoke with you about this about a year ago, this film was just developing, your film. How did you even begin the story, the whole process of telling the story of Tony Gaudio, please?
This is a very, very interesting story. So it was during COVID, and Gino got, phone call and email from two young guys, producer, director from Cosenza, Italy. And so they said, by chance, do you happen to know anything about Tony Gaudio? And Gino said, well, yeah, that's my great uncle. Wow. Boom. That's when everything started. I mean, the ball started rolling. We were doing Zoom calls, from LA, Los Angeles to Cosenza, Italy. And then Gino said, let's go meet them. So 2 years, October ago, we went to Italy, met them. They are legit. They were young, ambitious, intelligent, exciting. And so we came home. Suddenly we hear they're coming in January. And they had all these things set up that they wanted to do. They wanted to go to the LA theater. They wanted us to get people, the ASC cinematographers. They wanted us to get the cinematographers to do the interviews. Well, that's what I did. I had to
Right.
put that all together. So when you watch the documentary, if they're speaking English, I put that together mostly.
Mm.
And then
Now,
because it's in Italy, it's in Italian, and it's in English. So that's how it started.
marvelous story. Now, the American Society of Cinematographers, why don't you explain to us what is that about? Whoever wants to jump in is just
Okay.
fine with me. And
Yeah.
also, what does a cinematographer do? Of course, I know I'm in the business, you know, a lot of folks really aren't quite sure just how intricate that
Mhm.
skill is and how important it is, honestly, to every film that we see. Please go ahead.
The
You could
American
start out.
Society of Cinematographers was founded in 1919, and it's a professional organization. It's not a union, it's not a guild, it's a professional organization for the advancement of cinematography. It was founded in 1919. My grandfather Eugene was on the founding board, and then he died in 1920.
Hmm.
Tony Gaudio was the president in 1924-25 of the organization, but it's basically all of the ASC designation is a professional designation of quality.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And as far as in our film, one of the past presidents for the ASC, who's actually from Cosenza, oddly enough, his family,
Yeah.
Richard Crudo,
Richard Crudo, yeah.
he made the statement about what a cinematographer is. Without a cinematographer, you wouldn't have a film, because what the cinematographer does is he takes all of the ideas and the dialogue and the personalities off the page and creates the images. They don't
Yeah.
just set up a camera and start to crank away. So the cinematographer is actually crucial in actually forming the look of the film.
And
Hmm.
helping the director tell the story. So
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
about the story. So the director has his ideas or her ideas, and then the cinematographer can come in and add to it and help tell the story more succinctly. So you see it. You're not it's not
Yeah.
being told. You're visually seeing the story
There's
in a creative way with lighting, with with unique ideas that we have some fabulous cinematographers in our documentary. Mauro Fiore won an Academy Award for Avatar. Richard Edlin won an Academy Award for Star Wars. These guys are brilliant,
Mhm.
and so they talked about Tony Gaudio and what they learned from him, and how they could add this, and young filmmakers can add Tony Gaudio's ideas to their films
Mhm.
now in the present.
There's a couple of interesting parallelisms just to touch on. Mauro Fiore is Tony Gaudio was the first Italian from Calabria, which is the southern Italian region, to win the Academy Award. The most recent from Calabria is Mauro Fiore, and he
Wow.
won it for Avatar.
Yeah.
And then
That's just
yeah, the other parallelism is that the two brothers left Cosenza in 1906. Two brothers came from Cosenza here
To tell
to
their
do the film
story.
because the
oh,
two
isn't that
produ-
magnificent?
yeah, the
Wow.
two brothers, they're two brothers from Cosenza that came here to film the film.
I have to
Hmm.
The
say,
Nucci brothers.
I have to say that this film came together magically. It
Yeah.
is so interesting to me because everyone kept saying yes. I mean, the ASC members, we asked them if, I emailed them and I said, would you be interested? Yes. Charlie Lieberman helped us put this together from ASC. Shelley Johnson, president of ASC. Everyone was a yes. And then the theater that and then the Biltmore. I mean, the woman at the Biltmore, it was booked. It was booked. No, no, no. Then suddenly I said, look, we don't have any money. It's a documentary. Okay, you can walk through. You can walk through and take video. So that was a
Well,
yes.
also it's a time where if we don't start getting these stories right
Oh
now
yeah.
on
Mhm.
film, a lot of the folks who remember, who may have worked with folks such as your great uncle,
Mhm.
those people are going to be gone. So there's a very
Yeah.
thin link
Right.
to who's still around who can tell these stories. So it's really important that you've done this film. Tony, go ahead. You were going to say something. I mean,
Well,
Tony, listen to me. Gino, go ahead.
I,
Just
the
answer
the
to whatever I call you at this point.
okay, okay,
Wait,
which
isn't
I
that the
do.
Italian? Isn't that the Italian way? I call my
Yes.
kids the wrong name all the time, and they just answer anyway. So go ahead, Gino.
So what I was going to say was that what we found out, we as a family member learned a lot about Tony because we really growing up didn't know much about him. But what we learned from the documentary and from the ASC, we learned that he was a crucial contributor to lighting techniques. You
Yeah.
know, he was on the cutting edge. Films would be they would be lit in a certain way with a uh, certain lighting. So he would say, "Well, look, why don't we do this?" And then he changed the lights. He changed the way of doing things. He invented a style called precision lighting because his goal was to have on the film, he wanted to have this it look like it was all ambient lighting as opposed to just flood lighting. So he
Mm.
created these techniques of precision lighting where he would underlight something and overlight and in darkness and shadow
Make it look natural.
and make it look natural.
Right.
And he did
Well,
10 of Betty Davis's films.
Hmm.
Well, I was going to say, you illustrate that in the documentary,
Right.
right? You show that. And, and back then, those lights were pretty giant. They were big, they were heavy. It was a lot for the crew to maneuver them, right?
Yeah.
And you
Right.
showed that in the film, which I found really very interesting for myself as well. Just he really was a visionary. He was.
Yes.
And I imagine all that work and all the learning that he did under his family as a portrait photographer. He takes all that knowledge from Italy and brings it here and
Mhm.
takes it to the next level, which really, really is amazing. Tell me a little bit about his life in Italy, and about the photo studio that he had there. And when you were invited back, when they put the,
Right.
the plaque on the wall there in Cosenza, tell us about that.
Right. Well, there's a photo studio. The family was in the infancy of photography. I mean, they began in photography before the turn of the century.
Wow.
And so they had a portrait studio in this building, and on the side of the building was in concrete, it said Photo Gaudio. And my
Yeah.
father and I were there in 1991 and just happened to cross it. And that's where the
Wow.
photo studio was. That's where they lived.
And you didn't know that was your
I
family,
I
right?
knew it was the family, but because of the photography reference.
Oh, okay.
So Tony and Eugene were both born in Cosenza, and Tony went to art school in Rome, and then he went to Torino and worked with the Ambrosio Film Company, Arturo Ambrosio in Torino, and then they transferred over to New York and started to work for actually the Lemley Company, IMP. They worked for that company in the labs and in production. So we were invited to a red carpet ceremony in Cosenza in September 2022 to put a plaque commemorating Tony Gaudio. And so we had representatives from the region, from the mayor of the city. We had people from the film community there, and we had this wonderful ceremony where they put a plaque on the side of the building that just basically memorialized Tony's birth and his history in the cinema in the United States. And one interesting thing, there are two people in the film. One is Kuntz. I forgot his first name.
Jonathan,
Jonathan Kuntz from UCLA,
UCLA.
and
Yeah.
then there's a Eugenio Atanasio from Calabria. Kuntz said, "I doubt that we'll ever see someone else like
Hmm.
Tony Gaudio."
Hmm.
And
Wow.
Eugenio Atanasio said, "You could probably rewrite the history of cinema
Hmm.
starting in Calabria based on the contributions of Tony Gaudio and other Calabrians to the American film industry." So it's it's interesting because he's important not only to the American cinematic world, but the
The
Italians
Italian world too.
also recognize his
He went
importance.
from portraits to silent film to talkies, black and white to color. So his career spanned 50 years.
Which is really incredible. And we all know that all of our friends and family back in Italy, that is a proud moment when
Yes.
their friends and family come to America, make a success of themselves. And it's just really something that they all are quite proud of. So I can
Mhm.
only imagine what a magnificent experience that was for you all.
It
Really.
was.
I can imagine feeling that for you. You said his career spanned 50 years. Let's talk a little bit about his career here as well. And also let's put in there Eugene, because
Mhm.
he did quite a bit too. And sadly, you're right, he died very young at the age of 32. But he was right there alongside with his brother. So who knows what his career could have been,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
We don't really know. But let's talk about that 50-year span. Some of the greats that he worked with, some of what else did he, if you will, invent, or what's been credited to Tony Gaudio, and then the moment of the Oscar. Got to talk about the Oscar, the missing Oscar.
The missing Oscar. Well, Tony Gaudio, as I said, his career started like basically 1903, and his last film was The Red Pony in 1949. He worked for Howard Hughes on The Hells Angels, was nominated for Academy Award for that. He was nominated 5 times for the Academy Award.
A Time to Remember.
Yeah, and so he basically, at every technological juncture, Tony Gaudio was there. Before he invented a viewfinder with the Mitchell Camera Company. Before the viewfinder, it was only of 2 lenses, and so the image that the cinematographer would see through the camera would be upside down and backwards.
Right.
So Tony worked with the Mitchell Camera Company, invented a viewfinder. By putting a prism into the viewfinder, it righted the image right side up and the right way around. And that viewfinder was in use in cameras all the way until the digital age.
So, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I mean, did he patent that? Because that was very brilliant.
I think it was probably he and the Mitchell Camera Company. So it wasn't,
I see.
He didn't get the entire credit for it, but they developed, he was that kind of an innovator.
Yeah, and he developed montage. He is the one that created the montage.
Yeah, he was a cinematographer for
Betty Davis,
Webster, Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers, yeah.
He became a cinematographer for Warner Brothers when they bought, I think it was Republic or National Pictures, and so he did 10 pictures with Betty Davis. He was her preferred cinematographer, and.
Hang on, what Ms. Bette Davis wants, Ms. Bette Davis gets.
Of course.
Exactly.
So when she asked for him, she got him.
She got
go
him,
ahead,
yeah.
Mary. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Mary?
He made her look beautiful, and lighting. He made her look unique, and probably helped create her career. When you think about it,
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, about Eugene. You had mentioned Eugene. Eugene's biggest claim to fame, because before he died in 1920, was doing the 1916 version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which was a silent version.
Wow.
And his was the first example of underwater photography. He was in a diving bell with a hand crank filming these underwater scenes, and you can get the film, it's available, but it's that was, he was very famous for that.
Gosh, these brothers must have had a ball coming here to Hollywood, right? Think about it. And it was, such a different time. Everything was being, was innovative. And honestly, they weren't just artists. They were entrepreneurs, scientists. I mean, that's science when you're creating that with the mirror, right?
Yes,
I mean, they sort of, a bit of Da Vinci in your family there. Gino, go ahead.
Well, no, it's interesting that you say that, because a couple of people who have seen the film have basically commented that Tony Gaudio is basically standing on the shoulders of and promoting Caravaggio, use of shading and light and art. And Tony had an artistic, he had artistic training, and he's carrying on the Italian heritage, artistic heritage.
What I wanted to say, if you saw the movie Babylon. And I really liked the movie. I thought it was unique, but that's really the story of the beginning of Hollywood. And so I remember one of the scenes in Babylon. There was a sound stage, and they were silent movies being made. But in one room was one movie being made, another room right next door, and right behind them another movie, because they were silent, so they could all be making many movies in one soundstage. So then it changed where it was sound, talky, and then everything got crazy and manic. So if you watch Babylon, it's the story of the beginning of the film industry, really.
And that changed.
Yeah. Thank you for suggesting that also. And right, the beginning of Quiet on the Set, right?
Yes,
Because
yes,
Yeah,
gosh,
exactly.
if you could only
exactly.
be in that room with all those different
Yeah.
sets going on at the
Yeah.
same time, people talking on this one, talking on that one, how magnificent. So Tony also worked on Errol Flynn, right? He worked
Yeah.
with so many notables. Did he have a diary? Did he write a lot down, or was most of it basically his work? You're shaking your heads. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't have any. That's one of
Very
the
little.
this is a point that's made in the documentary because he and his first wife, my Aunt Rosina, they divorced early on.
Right.
And so we didn't have any personal relationship with him, and he didn't leave any personal writings. He did do quite a few articles for the ASC magazine.
Hmm.
And so there is quite a historical record of his professional life from the 20s all the way to the end of his career that he wrote articles in this magazine. But
No family photos.
yeah, we don't even have any family photos of him in
Isn't
private.
I
that
mean,
isn't that magnificent for all he did and all he worked on?
exactly.
Yeah,
There's nothing, or at
yeah,
least maybe they were there and they're just not recovered. Somebody has them. Somebody
Maybe someone,
accidentally
yeah,
tossed them.
maybe
I mean,
someone who has the Oscar.
yeah. It's interesting about this process that we have come into through Facebook and through social media. I've gotten in contact with the great granddaughter of the older brother, Raffaele. They live
oh,
in Rome, so we went and had dinner with
We
them.
met them in Rome.
And just recently, we've been contacted by somebody that I don't even recognize the name who says, yes, my paternal grandmother was Tony Gaudio's cousin.
oh,
And
And
she says, we have letters and we had, so I can't wait to follow up on this.
postcards. So
let me
yeah,
let me
that's
let me just say that is
yeah,
so powerful because I
Yeah.
have
yeah.
one cousin in New Jersey who said, all of your family is still there in Avellino. So I reached out to one, this is some time ago,
Yeah.
and found him. And that's how I also connected with my family. And now we've
Exactly.
got many, many Zaras because my maiden name is Zara. We're De Palma, Zara, Del Maro, and De Benedictus. That's my
Oh,
four
Wow.
grandparents.
yeah.
And some of them went to Argentina. So I've met so many family members through initially through social media. So folks, if don't give up, right?
Exactly.
Your
Yeah.
relatives are out
Yeah.
there somewhere, or
Yeah.
the offspring of the relatives.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
think one of you wanted to say something. Go ahead,
Well, I
Gino.
was just going to say that that's one of the great things about this film, and what I hope it really becomes. It's an instrument to create that bridge between Italy, current day Italy, and current day, for example, Los Angeles. We all know about our like my aunt. I know the pastries she made at Christmas time and all that, but we don't know a lot about contemporary Italy, and the contemporary Italians that come here are lawyers, architects. It's a completely different kind of immigration here, and
Right.
I hope that this film can be act as a bridge between those two worlds. It has in my life, and as you're saying, like in Avellino, you've been able to create that bridge.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's extremely important.
It's interesting because my relatives there now, and they live in a very small village called San Barbato near Avellino. And same thing, doctors, police chiefs, lawyers. And I even said, why do you live here? It's very, very, very small. They said,
Mhm.
because this is where we're from.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, because it was only my grandfather who decided to come here during that time because there was a lot of poverty there, but the rest of them all stayed, and then they
Hmm.
all had their families there, and then they stayed, which is so. And you're right about that bridge. We got to talk about the Oscar. Please tell us about
Yeah.
the film that he earned the Oscar for, and then we've all not we, but you've all been searching for this Oscar. You even hired a detective. So let's first talk about the film, the Oscar, and then all of the rest, such as Tony Gaudio's offspring and great
Mhm.
grandchildren that you met with. Go ahead.
Well, the film that he won for, it's called
Anthony
Anthony
Adverse.
Adverse, which was from a novel. The film was made in 1936. The Academy Award for Cinematography was presented in 1937. They make the comment in the film that it earned three times what it cost to make. It earned $3 million in 1936, so it was a
Wow.
huge
That's
success.
yeah.
And the
Wow.
the film itself, there's techniques that he used, for example, the use of shadow, the use of the sword fighting techniques that are reflected on the wall so that the camera's on while the action's happening below, they can focus on another character. Some very innovative camera techniques that he had. And he, go ahead. Do you want to say something? Go ahead.
Well, I'll talk about the nomination.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened is the Italians, producer Fabrizio Nucci, submitted it to the Academy Awards. And so we got notification that the voters for the Academy documentaries are screening it now. So
Oh,
we're
wow.
very excited. And so now we have a week screening also for the public, December 13th through 19 at the Glendale Lemley. And then we are going to have like a red carpet VIP event December 15th. So we're pushing it forward.
Yeah.
We
Well,
are
it's interesting because it's kind of coming full circle, right?
definitely.
Yes.
The Oscar that he won,
Yes.
and now we've got folks in the Academy who hopefully are going to be looking at this
Yes.
for a documentary
Yeah.
for the Oscars. So I love 100 plus years later how it's coming full circle. Looks
Yes.
like Tony and Eugene maybe looking
Yes.
looking at it saying, "I'm going to make
just
this happen."
hoping, I'm hoping people that see I hope they're curious, like, who is Tony Gaudio?
Yeah.
If you vote for the Academy, if you're an Academy voter, please watch the film. That's all I can ask is
Yeah.
watch the film. I think you will be impressed and excited. And I'm excited about it because I love film.
Mhm.
I love filmmaking. I love telling stories. I like hearing other people's stories. So this to me is like I'm so excited about this, and I want to see how far we can take it.
Right.
And the thing is, again, little budget, it's a little documentary from Cosenza, Italy, but it is so powerful and it's so jam-packed with information, important information for filmmakers.
Yeah.
So we have a chance. We just need people to watch it.
You were
Absolutely.
asking about Tony's family. He had 4 children. One was a lawyer up in San Francisco. One followed him into the cinematography business, a son, and then he had 2 daughters. And my cousins, his grandsons and granddaughters, live in Southern California.
Oh, I
So
love it.
we've been. This has been great for our family to get us all together. We had a family
Oh, yeah.
reunion. Yeah.
But that's why, again, they're involved with the Tony Gaudio Foundation for
Right.
Cinematic Arts. So we started the foundation so we can help young filmmakers, so we can help them with their career, so we can help with grants and with scholarships. So
we're raising. We have a $3,500 scholarship that we gave to the American Society of Cinematographers. We want to do an annual contribution for their. They have a program. They call it a master's. It's not a master's degree, but it's for working cinematographers who get to be with the cinematographers at the ASC. So the Tony Gaudio Foundation is contributing a $3,500 scholarship for them every year.
Magnificent. But let's go back just a little bit because we were talking a little bit about what he won the Oscar for. By the way, can we see that film? Is it available for anyone to find? And how could we find it?
I think it's available on Amazon.
yeah,
I think you can probably get it on Amazon. Yeah.
Because I'm sure folks are going to be very curious about the film. And then, of course, his role in it, which was a huge role back then, especially the cinematographer. And who was he up against for the Oscar? Do you know?
I don't know.
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a very good question. I don't know.
We need to look into that.
Yeah.
But it's similar to like Gone with the Wind, one next year. But it's that kind of it's a Gone with the Wind kind of film that won the year before. Anthony Adverse won the year before Gone, I think year or two before Gone with the Wind.
Wow.
So it's set up that kind of storytelling.
What an exciting time in Hollywood, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely brilliant time in Hollywood. So, okay, so folks can still try to look up that film. I'm going to do that. I didn't do it yet. I'm very excited to find the film. He wins the Oscar, okay, because there's photos of him with this Oscar. So we know he won the Oscar.
We know that.
What happened next? Because I know that, you've been on a journey to find this thing. He was married, you said, twice.
Right.
So all of your cousins are with his first wife or the second wife, or is a
First
combo
wife.
of?
The
First,
first
Okay.
wife.
yeah.
Yeah. He
So
didn't have any
you've
children with his second wife.
okay, so you've met the cousins, or most of them, I imagine, from the
Right.
first wife. Um, what happened in between that this Oscar is missing? I'm going to go looking for it because I can't even
Okay.
imagine. It's making me crazy wondering where this thing is. Go
Well,
ahead.
we have one thread, which, well, we have two threads actually. My cousin Gary, who is 80, he remembers seeing it. And when Tony retired, he went up north and opened a little photo studio, a camera
Oh,
shop. And Gary remembers going to that photo camera shop and seeing it, like in the
oh,
window. It was his calling card. So he
oh my
remembers he
gosh.
remembers him having it then. When he died, we don't have any idea what happened to it. And
Oh
from that
no.
point on, it could be with his second wife's family. Um, there's some indication that there was some relatives of hers in Texas, San Antonio, Texas. So there may be some information there, but there's a lot of speculation, but we really don't know what happened to
There may
Gosh,
be a
folks,
second documentary. If someone comes
it.
forward,
Yes.
then we're going to have another, we'll
See,
make another movie.
folks need to go rummaging through their attics and basements
Yes,
because it's, probably under some clothing, which really breaks my heart.
I
But
yeah,
know.
it's somewhere. I mean, I'm
yeah,
hoping that it just wasn't sold someplace that somebody needed money. We
yeah.
don't really know,
No,
right?
I don't
You
know.
know, it, I
God.
went to a Burbank Chamber of Commerce event at Warner Brothers Studios, and so that you're able to walk around,
Oh,
and
yeah.
as you're on your way out, they allowed you to take a picture holding an Oscar,
A real one.
a real one. So I have a
So
picture of me
creepy.
holding an Oscar. I just thought this is what it felt. This is what it felt like for him to hold this Oscar.
I can't imagine. My friend won a very important Emmy. She's down in Florida. And just before the hurricane, I said, grab
Oh,
the Emmy so it doesn't go flying
definitely.
somewhere. And she's like,
Yeah.
gosh, Deborah, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, how do you not think about these things? Because, those are the things you grab when
Yeah.
there's an issue. I know there were fires not long ago near here, and they said, start to get ready in California. So I grabbed my marathon medals. There are just certain things you got to leave the house with,
That's
right?
right.
But we don't know. But that
No,
could
we
be the
don't know.
next film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm thinking that way, the producer in me.
no, that's
I,
how you
I'm
think.
just
I know
being,
how you think. You're
yeah,
like an investigator, Mary. You
I
really are.
am.
It's like if there's a question, you'll go 5 levels below that to get your answer. That's why you're the producer of this film. You're terrific.
Thank
Anything
you.
else you can tell us, Gino, about this experience for you personally? This is your family.
Yeah.
This little piece of this Oscar belongs to you too.
Yeah. This has been a wonderful family experience. It's been in the film, we have a family reunion. So there were about 15 or 20 of us of my generation that all got together. This is the first time probably in 30 years that we'd all been together since we were kids. And and
Wow.
no and knowing about Tony Gaudio and knowing about how important he was as a family member, we're all very, very proud of what he's accomplished, and he and Eugene. And it's
Mm.
been quite an emotional journey. And also with the connection with Cosenza, that we've been able to establish friendships and between Los Angeles and Cosenza, with our heritage. It's been a wonderful experience.
Talk about you learning Italian for how many years? I mean, this
Well,
is so
yeah,
brilliant.
I decided when I was 30 that I wanted to teach myself Italian. So I've been learning Italian all this time. Well, it finally paid off.
Yeah.
When I went to Italy in 2022, I was able to communicate in Italian with the people with the people in
The
Cosenza,
mayor.
with the mayor
Yeah.
and different people. So it's been a real kind of a capstone for our family in terms of our Italian heritage.
Yeah. What else would you like to say to our audience that I haven't even thought to ask you? Because this is your story. You know it
Mhm.
better than I do. What's next, if you will? And what else do you want folks to know about filmmaking, about Tony Gaudio, about this documentary, if you would?
Well, like I was saying, this film came together magically. And it's kind of like there's another power behind it that's like
Oh, I think so.
urging, it's moving forward through the world, through space, through us. everyone that we touch, everyone that sees it is really excited and amazed, and everyone learns something from the film. And I love that. You know, again, as a filmmaker, as someone who loves films, this is what it's all about. This is what life is about: creating,
Yeah.
sharing, you know, holding these moments precious. I love this, and I'm having, you know, the time of my life helping get the story out. And I just want to do more, you know, I just want to
Yeah.
do more.
And
And in
I would
terms,
just,
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna, I would like to say that I think for anybody who sees this, this is not a niche film. You might get the impression that, oh, only cinematographers will like it, or it's so
No.
technically oriented that it's not that at all. It's really has a wider audience. It definitely has an audience for Italians and Italian immigrants and Italian Americans, because it's the story of, there are many stories like that in this country. It's also a history of cinema in Los Angeles. And it's also a family, it's got a family theme to it. So this is, I think anybody can enjoy this film. It is not, so I would encourage anybody who sees this, see the film.
It's an immigrant story. And that's what I like about it too. It's like anyone who came to this country has a story. Anyone from any country, and we can all relate to that. And we all need to hear each other's stories. We all need to share stories. And this was just done so perfectly, you know, the and so professionally and so heartfelt, you know, because it's not just like Gino said, it's not just the technical information that you're going to learn from it. It's the heartfelt story that you're going to learn from it too. And then it's going to make you want to tell your story.
I was going to say it's also a young person's film. In other words, you know,
Yes.
if you're studying this in school, you got to watch this film because you need to know where
Yeah.
it all started and how it began. I know that it has been shown in schools, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, let me tell you that. We are working, the foundation is working with USC, and I have my doctorate in education, so I'm working with the professors from USC, the film students, and the Italian students. So I oversee the interns at for our foundation, and so we just showed it at USC at the Broccoli Theater,
Mhm.
and film students were invited to come see it, and we had this really cute wonderful student named Mia, and she raised her hand when we were doing the Q&A and said, I have updated all of Tony Gaudio's
Oh, wow.
information on, was it I not IMDb,
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, I was wondering why there was so much more information. When we first started, there was
I
nothing
love it.
there. And she came up and she introduced herself to us, and she's like a junior at USC film student.
Yeah.
I love this. I love helping the students see the importance of this film, of their immigrant story. She's not Italian even. And so, and I love that she's so interested about the
Mhm.
story. And so that's why we are also raising money for scholarship for students at USC right now. We want to spread out and go to other universities and their
Mhm.
film departments. And I mean, that's the goal. That's my goal in the foundation,
It's our goal.
because
It's the foundation's goal.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
love working with young kids. Yeah.
Very briefly, how can folks see the film?
Okay, so right now we are in the Academy viewing stage. So it is at the Glendale Lemley, and we just said that Tony Gaudio worked for Lemley in New York. So this is
Yeah.
really full circle again. The screening for the public is going to be at the Glendale Lemley, December 13th through 19th, and the public can go. There's 3 shows a day, 2 in the during the day and 1 in the evening. You'll just have to look up the Glendale Lemley and look up the times. I
Right.
don't, they're going to change, but and so then again, we're going to have the red carpet event on the 15th, Sunday. So if anyone can come, we'd love you to come and watch the film with us, and have some popcorn and
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
blast.
And
Looking
two of
forward
the,
to that. Gino, you get the last word. Go ahead.
I was just going to say two of the cinematographers that are in the film
Oh, yeah.
will be attending
Yeah.
Oh,
also.
I look
So
forward to that.
Oh, and then I have my friend is a Getty Images photographer. So come for free, publicity.
well, I just want to
Absolutely.
thank
Yeah.
Deborah. I want to thank you for giving us this
Yeah. Thank you,
exposure and this
Deborah.
chance to have this conversation because we are finding, to your point, that young people really find this topic interesting and
Yeah.
It
they
is.
find the film interesting. So it
Yeah.
resonates. It's a very current kind of a film. But thank you very much for all of this. This has been wonderful.
I'm thrilled, and I look forward to seeing it possibly nominated for an Oscar. Let's see what
Yes,
happens, right?
yes,
Please, please.
And I'm also looking forward to seeing it on the big screen, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
Yeah.
even know the last time I went to the movie theater. So this is going to encourage me to get out to the movies. I watch it at home, of course, but now to watch it on the big screen, that's, as you said, get some popcorn. It's a different experience when
Yeah.
you go to the theater to watch a film. So
yeah,
folks, please look that up. Go
Yeah.
see the film. It is an absolutely magnificent film in many ways. It's a story. It's a heartfelt story about family, about talent, about the movie industry. It's really
Mhm.
wonderful, and actually how far things have come.
Mhm.
I hope creatively. I mean, we're running out of time, but I just want to say this creatively. I hope that with AI, that things don't go to the point where everything becomes, that the AI is making a decision for us with filmmaking.
yeah,
You can never really replicate, in my opinion,
No.
the human spirit. And, let's see what happens in the future. But this is a great example of beautiful cinematography from the beginning and a lost Oscar of Tony Gaudio. So
yes.
please come see the film, The Lost Legacy of Tony Gaudio, soon to be found. So thank you, everybody.
Right there.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Gino,
Mhm.
Dr. Mary Reid Gaudio and Gino Gaudio, my friends. Thank you very much for joining us today. And you can find our interview on all video and audio platforms of Deborah Cobelt Live and our Little Italy podcast. We're very proud to do that. And then, of course, an audio version of our podcast on all audio version podcasts, whether it's Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Just put us in and you'll find our story and interview with the Gaudios. So thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.